Good morning, students. Welcome for today's e-learning session of Shri Jimdunda Primary School, Standard 5th, and subject of the day is Social Studies. My dear students, today we are going to start the third chapter of our syllabus. Some people never die. So, students, you must be wondering which kind of people are these who never die, right? So, these are the people, these are the great personalities who have done a lot for the society, who have done a lot for providing justice for the weaker sections of the society. So let's begin with the chapter. So before starting the chapter, I would like to share some objectives behind learning this chapter. So let's move. So the reason behind understanding this chapter is to learn about the history of types of social injustice prevalent around the world and movements launched to oppose them. Second is to understand and assimilate knowledge about the lives of some famous leaders. The third one is to become aware of the major contributions made by these famous leaders of the world. And last but not the least is to assimilate the values and beliefs spread by these leaders. So, in this chapter, we are going to study about these four personalities: Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, and Mother Teresa. So, let's go in detail about one by one. So, who was Abraham Lincoln? He was the 16th president of the USA. Clear? Now, let's study about him. He was a legislator of the State Assembly. So, students, at the age of 25, early age, Abraham Lincoln was elected as a legislator in the State Assembly of Illinois, that is USA. Abraham Lincoln was elected as the President of USA in 1860. He abolished slavery. As Abraham Lincoln was strictly against slavery, he freed 3 million slaves after becoming the president. Also, he passed a law framed that is termed as the Emancipation Proclamation to abolish slavery in USA. Abraham Lincoln became unpopular in the southern states of USA where people favored slavery. So the people of the southern states decided to form a separate nation, and this led to a war which was called as American Civil War. Lincoln was shot dead by a supporter of the southern states on April 14, 1865. The second personality is Martin Luther. He was the president of Pennsylvania. He was elected as the president of Pennsylvania by a majority of white students. He worked against apartheid. And now what does it mean? Martin Luther King worked for the civil rights and advancement of blacks. This is what we call as apartheid. He was inspired by Gandhiji. See, Martin Luther King was inspired by Gandhiji's non-violent method and used the same method to demand equality for blacks in USA. At the age of 35, Martin Luther King became the youngest man to receive the Nobel Prize for his peaceful contribution for the upliftment of blacks. Assassinated. He was also shot dead in 1968 by one of his opponents. Now, the third personality is Gandhiji, Mahatma Gandhi. Now, what did he do? He promoted Satyagraha. Gandhiji fought against discrimination by developing a method called Satyagraha, in which Satya means truth and Graha means firmness. He launched non-cooperation movement. So in India, Gandhiji launched a non-cooperation movement to fight against the British rule, and India became free on 15th August 1947. Gandhiji was shot dead on 30th January 1948. The last personality as per the chapter is Mother Teresa. So Mother Teresa felt the pain of downtrodden and poor people and believed that service was the way to fight against the injustice that these people face. So her real name was Anges Gonçalves Bogdaxiu. She was a nun. At the age of 12, she became a nun and was named Teresa. She opened missionaries of charity in 1915. Gradually, the missionaries opened several schools, orphanages, and homes for the poor in India and other countries. And she also had received Bharat Ratna and Nobel Peace Prize for her humanitarian services. Now, let's go through the chapter in detail. So we have seen the objectives of the chapter, right? So the personalities that we are going to study about are Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, and Mother Teresa. These four personalities, these are some of them which are the people who will never die in a heart. Okay, though they are not between us, but they are still alive by the names. They are still remembered by everyone. So the first personality was the Abraham Lincoln. You know, students, he was born in 1809 in USA. Okay, and he was born in such a poor family that his childhood had been spent in helping his parents. He had hardly attended the school for 1 year or less than 1 year just because of his poor condition. So, but he was fond of studying, he was fond of reading the books, and he also his stepmother was such a supportive to help him out. Okay, she has fulfilled his desire. She couldn't send him to school, but she was always stood by him for the studies. Means many times she must have given or had books for him or whatever. He was fond of learning as well, so he always used to read the books, though repeatedly or whatever. But anyhow, he managed to build his career. So at the young age of 22, he started his career as a successful lawyer. He became a lawyer at the young age of 22. And at the young age of 25, he was elected to the Illinois House of Representatives. He was against slavery as well. Which kind of slavery? Like, see, the black people in USA, which were also called as the Negroes, were considered as slaves. Slaves मतलब मजदूरों के जैसे उनसे behave करते थे. They were not given the good condition to live. They had to forcefully work and for the less pay. They were bought and sold also, and they had to work in such a poor condition. So their condition was too worse, and he was against this. So the Southern America, where it was done, slavery was practiced where in Southern America. So Southern America state always against him. Okay, so he became less popular among them. He lost his popularity just for he wanted the justice with black people. So, but northern people was where was northern state was backing him. So he was the elected president of USA, and this created the war between the two states, the northern and southern state, and this war was called as the American Civil War, as you can see here in the last line. So Abraham Lincoln was born in 1809. He was a very successful lawyer. He was elected to the Illinois House of Representatives at the age of 22. Sorry, at the age of 25. He was against slavery. He was elected president of the USA, which resulted in American Civil War. Now what happened? The war was won by the northern states, which was backed by him only. And just before winning the war, he had announced that he would free about 3 million slaves in the USA. And after winning the war, after 2 years of war, a law was enforced banning the slavery of in the USA, slavery of black people in USA. So he was elected the president for the second time also. Clear? And after being elected for the second time, his plan was to reduce the difference between the people. Abhi, he was of the thinking that both the states should forget the past and they should combine now. He was of the intention, and he made some plans to remove the differences between these two states. But he was shot dead by a supporter of the southern states. Okay, so his plans were not fulfilled to some extent. So next, move towards next personality, that is the Mahatma Gandhi. Students, you know Mahatma Gandhi was born on 2nd October 1869, where at Porbandar in Gujarat. Okay, he studied law in England. He decided to fight against injustice with the blacks of Africa and the Indians living in South Africa. He opposed injustice by using non-violent methods of protest, which was called as satyagraha, and his methods were successful. So, students, Gandhi ji was born in Porbandar in Gujarat state. Okay, when? On 2nd October, on which we celebrate Gandhi Jayanti, right? And which year was it? 1869. He studied his bachelor's degree in England. He went there to study, and then after studying he started his career in South Africa as a barrister. Students, you know that when he was born, our country, that is India, was ruled by the British people. And when he started his career in South Africa, there was also the same condition. वहाँ भी British rule चल रहा था. Even he observed that blacks of the Africa, the black people of Africa as well as the Indians were treated so badly there. वहाँ पर भी यही problem थी slavery वाली. So he decided to fight against injustice with the blacks of Africa and the Indians, which was done in South Africa. And he followed his method of non-violence. Okay, उसने कहा कि मैं लड़ूंगा नहीं, किसी से झगड़ा नहीं करूँगा, फाइटिंग नहीं करूँगा, बस मेरा क्या मेथड रहेगा? नॉन वायलेंस, शांति की राह. ओके, एंड दिस मेथड ऑफ प्रोटेस्ट वाज कॉल्ड एज सत्याग्रह. सत्याग्रह इज अ संस्कृत वर्ड मीनिंग truth and firmness, and his methods was successful also. all the injustice which were done with blacks and Indians were came to an. He launched his non-cooperation movement in India. He was arrested soon, released. Due to his efforts, India became free of British rule on 15th August 1947. He was against the practice of untouchability. He did a lot for untouchables and called them Harijans or the people of God. So, as he returned from South Africa to India, it was still their British rule. Okay, India the was still ruled by the British government. So he thought, यहाँ पर भी मुझे सबको justice दिलाना है. What if our India became free of this British rule? So he tried his best and he applied the same method, and this movement was called as non-cooperation movement. For this, soon the movement spread all over the India and he was got arrested for this thing. Soon the government had to release him. But he continued. After coming out of the jail, he continued. He organized many other movements also, and due to his efforts, finally our India became free of British rule. When on 15th August 1947. Students, you know, we celebrate Independence Day on 15th August, right? So this is because of his effort. Then there was untouchability prevalent in India. Untouchability means there were some category people, उनको किसने टच कर लिया तो गलत माना जाता था. They should not be touched, they should not be sitting with us, talking with us, they should not be having any kind of relation with us. उनके साथ बहुत बैड ट्रीटमेंट किया जाता था, जैसे ब्लैक पीपल के साथ यूएस में हो रहा था, like that only. So he did a lot for their upliftment. उनकी स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग सुधारने के लिए गांधी जी ने बहुत किया, because as per him they were the Harijans. वो उनको क्या बुलाते थे? हरिजन. हरि मीन्स गॉड, जन मीन्स लोग. तो हरिजन मीन्स भगवान के लोग. सी देयर हैज बीन रिटन पीपल ऑफ गॉड. ओके, नाउ लेट्स मूव अहेड. एंड he did a lot for Hindu Muslim unity also. Even he was too disappointed after the partition of India and Pakistan. Okay, he was not ready for that thing. And hence he was shot dead on 30th January 1948 by one of his opponent. Rabindranath Tagore was so impressed with his work that he decided to call him as Mahatma. Mahatma means the great soul, and hence Gandhiji will always be remembered as Mahatma only. Whenever we take his name, we put Mahatma before, right? So for uplifting the poor and downtrodden, Gandhiji has done a lot. Fine. And we have also got independence before just because of him. So he will always be remembered as Mahatma. The next example is Martin Luther King. Now, who was Martin Luther King? He was also the president. So he was born in southern state of Georgia in USA in 1929. He was the main person who fought against the injustice with blacks. He used Gandhiji's non-violent methods to protest, demanding equality for the blacks in the USA. On 20th August 1963, about 2 lakh people joined him in his march on Washington. He got succeeded in providing equality to the blacks. He was also given the Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts, but he was again shot dead by one of his opponents. But he made it possible for a whole race of people to live with dignity. So student, as we have seen that Abraham Lincoln had supported the black people a lot, and he tried his best. He has provided so many efforts for their upliftment and eradicating the injustice that was happening with them in USA. After that, but he died, and after that, still somewhere it was continuing. Okay, कहीं कहीं पे ब्लैक पीपल के साथ अभी भी injustice हो ही रहा था. Somewhere matlab many of the buses were there having separate seats for the black people and the white people, and many places like restaurants and hotels, black people were not allowed. So Martin Luther King came to fight for them. Clear? He was considered as the main person to fight against injustice with black. He came to India in 1959 with the objective of meeting Gandhiji and learning something from him. And he learned his non-violence method. Okay, non-violent का method उन्होंने सीखा of सत्याग्रह. He was very much impressed with this method of Gandhiji and he followed the same path in his own state, in his own country. And also he became more famous, most popular in among blacks, and they also supported him a lot. So they joined him in march also, which was conducted on 28th August 1963. It was the march on Washington, and even he got succeeded in providing equality to the blacks. Okay, so a law was passed providing equality to the blacks in USA. Now what happened? Still in some areas they were not allowed to vote. Okay, so he passed a law. In Alabama, some white officials prevented blacks from voting also. So what happened? The people joining King protest for this thing, and what happened? Finally a law was passed which was assuring them of voting rights also. Even it means the black people were also had the right to vote in the elections. So this way he got succeeded in providing equality to the blacks. For this he had won the Nobel Peace Prize, but he was shot dead by one of his opponents in 1968. But before leaving the world, he made it possible for whole race of the people to live with dignity. And for this thing, he will always be alive in our hearts, especially in the hearts of the black people, that is the Negroes. Now comes the Mother Teresa. Students, you know her original name was Agnes Gongsa Boxer-Hugh. Students, you know her original name was Agnes Gongsa Boxer-Hugh. She was born in 1910. She became nun at the young age of 12 years only. She looked after the poor and needy children, and she believed that serving the poor means serving Christ Himself. Students, you know what? When she was at the age of 12, she became nun. Then she was sent India in Kolkata to work in a convent school. Clear? To serve the convent school. It is said that once she has dreamt that God is saying her to help the poor people and poor children. So she left that job of teaching there and she started looking after the poor and needy children. And she was also believed that serving the poor means serving to the Christ, that is the God Himself. हम गरीबों की सेवा करो, वही हमारे भगवान की सेवा है. In 1950, she and the people working with her set up a new order called Missionaries of Charity. They took a vow to serve the poor. उन्होंने वादा किया, vow यानी हम क्या कहते हैं, शपथ ली कि हम हर तरह के पुअर की मदद करेंगे. And eventually, Missionaries of Charity opened schools, orphanages, homes for lepers and homes for dying poor in India and other countries. धीरे धीरे उन्होंने इतना प्रोग्रेस किया that they have started schools ऑर्फनेजेस मीन्स अनाथालय, जहाँ अनाथ बच्चों को रखा जाता है। होम्स फॉर लेपर्स एंड होम्स फॉर डाइंग पुअर, गरीबों के लिए और बूढ़ों के लिए उन्होंने घर खोला। Not only in India but also in other countries also. And for this effort, she has received many awards like Bharat Ratna, Magsaysay Award, and Nobel Peace Prize. She died in the year 1997. So, students, this chapter was about these four personalities, and there are many more personalities. So, though they are not among us, it is sad to say that they are not among us right now, but they will always be alive in our memories for the good deeds they have done for the upliftment of our society. Now, I am going to share a short video clip from Extra Marks for this chapter. Enjoy the video.
Some people never die. What is common in the following situations? Various forms of discrimination. It is injustice, isn't it? What do you understand by injustice? Injustice is the violation of right or of the rights of another, such as a child has a right to study and play, but if a child is forced into child labor, then that is an injustice to the child. There are few people in our history who fought for the human rights and made a difference in our lives. These are the people who are no longer alive but still exist in our memories. Today, let's get to know about some such great personalities. Abraham Lincoln. He was the 16th President of the United States of America, who was born on February 12, 1809. He was against slavery when the slavery was very common in USA. People from Africa who were called Negroes or black were kept as slaves by the white people. Today, Abraham Lincoln is known as one of the greatest American presidents, but at the time of his election in 1860, many states in the South broke away from the USA and announced that they would form a separate nation. During his presidentship, he passed a law termed as the Emancipation Proclamation to abolish slavery in the country and freed the 3 million slaves. He encouraged people to live in peace and unity. He made plans to remove differences between northern and southern states, but before execution of his plans, he was shot dead by a supporter of the southern state. Abraham Lincoln was the 16th President of the United States. He was against slavery. Abraham Lincoln passed the law Emancipation Proclamation to ban slavery. He was instrumental in reuniting northern and southern states of America. Now test your knowledge. What was the law passed by Abraham Lincoln called? Proclamation Emancipation. Even after a long time since slavery was banned in the USA, blacks were ill-treated. They were not considered equal to whites. Martin Luther King was the main person who fought against this injustice. He was born in 1929 in the state of Georgia in USA. He visited India in 1959 and was very impressed by Gandhiji's non-violent method and used the same method to demand equality for the blacks in USA. He gained tremendous support of the blacks and organized a march of about 2 lakh people on 28 August 1963 in Washington. A year later, after this march, a law was passed in the USA giving equality to blacks. Martin Luther King received the Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts. But Martin continued to fight against racism till he was shot dead in 1968. He taught the lesson to millions of people to live with dignity. Martin Luther King fought against racial discrimination in the United States of America. He was a strong worker for civil rights for blacks. He was inspired by Mahatma Gandhi's non-violent methods of protest. He was the youngest man to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. What kind of an injustice did Martin Luther King fight against? Racial discrimination. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi was born on 2nd October 1869 at Porbandar in Gujarat and went to England to study law. At the time when British ruled India, the non-violent approach of Mahatma Gandhi was a strong force to fight against the injustice. This method was called Satyagraha, which means truth and firmness. After finishing law successfully at the age of 23, Gandhiji left for South Africa. He came back to India after 20 years and continued his struggle against the unjust British rule. He launched his non-cooperative movement in India in 1920. It spread all over in India and has many followers. Later, Gandhiji started many other movements against British rule. He also worked against the practice of untouchables in India. He also worked towards the unity of Hindu and Muslims and was heartbroken when India was partitioned into India and Pakistan. The British had to bow before the might of non-violence, and hence India attained freedom on 15th August 1947. Gandhiji was assassinated on 30th January 1948. He is still remembered throughout the world, not only as a leader, but also as a wise and generous being known as Mahatma Gandhi. The title of Mahatma given to Gandhiji was given by Rabindranath Tagore. Rabindranath Tagore was so impressed with Gandhiji's work for the upliftment of the poor and downtrodden that he decided to call him Mahatma, which means great soul. Mahatma Gandhi launched the non-cooperation movement and led India towards freedom from British rule in 1947. He followed the method of Satyagraha or non-violence. Gandhiji worked tremendously for the benefits of the untouchables or Harijans in India. Mahatma Gandhi also worked towards the unity of Hindus and Muslims. Now, test your knowledge. Name the method that was adopted by Mahatma Gandhi to gain India's freedom. Satyagraha. Another great person who believed in serving humanity was Mother Teresa. Her original name is Agnes Jinxa Bojaxiu, and she was born in 1910. Mother Teresa became a nun at the age of 12 and was named Teresa. At the age of 18, she was sent to India to teach in a convent in Kolkata. She felt bad for poor people in the city, and it was then that she decided to move into the slums. She looked after the poor and needy children. In 1950, Mother Teresa was able to set up the Missionaries of Charity. Gradually, the missionaries opened several schools, orphanages, homes for the lepers, and homes for dying poor in India and other countries. For her selfless service for the poor, she received many prestigious awards like Bharat Ratna, Nobel Peace Prize, and the Magsaysay Award. Agnes Jinxa Bojaxiu came to be known as Mother Teresa. She became nun at the age of 12 and was named Teresa. She believed service was the way to fight against the injustice. Mother Teresa helped the poor in India and other countries, for which she received many prestigious awards. Now test your knowledge. Mother Teresa was bestowed with which award? Bharat Ratna. It is right to say that there are some people who will never die in our memories. One of them is Karl Marx. He was a philosopher, revolutionary, and without a doubt, the most influential socialist thinker to emerge in the 19th century. His full name was Karl Heinrich Marx. He was born in Germany on May 5, 1818. He became a revolutionary communist after becoming the member of the young Hegelian movement. Karl Marx, along with his friend Friedrich Engels, co-authored the pamphlet The Communist Manifesto, which was published in 1848. This radical pamphlet became an essential guidebook for any socialist. It brought a revolution against the class-based social system. Another very important body of work was The Das Kapital. It is a book about the critical analysis of the political economy. There are 4 main volumes of the book, and each of them is an important article and evaluation of the system that created nastiness for many poor workers around the world. Karl Marx was a philosopher, revolutionary, and the most influential social thinker. His full name is Karl Heinrich Marx. Karl Marx, along with his friend Friedrich Engels, co-authored the pamphlet The Communist Manifesto. A very important book authored by him was The Das Kapital. Now try to answer this question. Who was the Communist Manifesto's target audience? The worker class people were the target audience of the Communist Manifesto. Do you know? Philo means love and Sophia means wisdom. So the word philosophy really means the love of wisdom. Another great philosopher was Socrates. He was a Greek who is credited as the founder of Western systems of logic and philosophy. He was born in Athens, Greece in around 470 BC. He was the son of an Athenian stonemason and sculptor. Socrates worked as mason for many years before he devoted his life to philosophy. Plato, Xenophon, and Aristophanes were among his students and admirers. Socrates was known for his courage in battle and fearlessness, a trait that stayed with him throughout his life. He was excellent in argumentative skill and powerful advocacy. He helped the people of Europe to examine one's own beliefs and evaluate their worth through his plays and debates. Famous work is The Cloud. His attitude of defending the truth clashed with Athenian politics and society. So he was sentenced to death by the jury by drinking poison. Socrates was a philosopher who is credited as the founder of Western systems of logic and philosophy. Socrates was known for his courage in battle and fearlessness. He was excellent in argumentative skill and powerful advocacy. Now it's the activity time. Try to find out about 3 other great people who are no longer alive but still have their presence felt. Find out about their life and their achievements. You can take help of the internet or visit the school library for the same. Thank you. A presentation by Extra Marks.
Students, we have come towards the end of today's e-learning session. I hope that you have enjoyed the video and understood the chapter very well. Now, we will meet in next session. Till that, thank you and happy learning. Have a nice day.